What will happen if Labour comes in?
I think that the country will be breathing a sigh of relief because what we have seen from the Conservatives is 14 years of failure and now the utter chaos.
What are your plans? Like how you're going to get back to where you were or to a better England or United Kingdom?
We left the country with an economy that was growing. When you look at the economic statistics and data from 2010, you see that we were coming out of a recession that was just resulting from the 2008 global financial crisis.
Everyone wants to ask this question. Why should I vote for Labour and not Conservative or Lib Dem? So what will be your answer, please?
I hope that people are now seeing that it is time for a change, that the Conservatives have squandered much of the country's inheritance in a way, and that what they have become characterised as is not a functioning government anymore. They have become characterised as a party that is putting its own interests before the country.
Hi guys, welcome back to yet another episode of The Hatman. So we are going to have a conversation with Seema Malhotra ji, the current Shadow Minister for Skills. So you know that on July the 4th, 2024, we are going to have a general election, and Seema Malhotra ji is going to represent Labour at Feltham and Heston. So me, along with the senior immigration lawyer Badri Bala Venkatesan, we had a quick chat to understand what the pledges are and what will happen if Labour comes back to power after the gap of 14 years. So it's really interesting to understand like what they will bring back to table and what are the first steps they are going to take once they are back to power. So please watch this interview. It's going to be really insightful. And if you have any comments, please leave below. And don't forget to subscribe to us because we'll be coming up with lots of really informative podcasts. So please subscribe and support us. Thank you. Thank you very much, Seema ji, for coming here in spite of your busy campaigns. Like you've done door-to-door campaigns. The whole day is completely jam-packed. And once we just called you and we asked you, you came here all the way after finishing everything. And I think that your diary is still busy after this as well, right? So thank you. We'll not take much of your time, but we were so eager to ask you multiple questions. So we were just discussing what should we ask, and we are actually looking forward for you to come and form the government. But at the same time, we have a lot of questions like what will happen when Labour comes in to the office after a long time. It's been a long time and we want you to be back soon. So first thing first, what will happen if Labour comes in?
I think that the country will be breathing a sigh of relief because what we have seen from the Conservatives is 14 years of failure and now the utter chaos that has meant that the country is no longer focused. It's like a ship that is just drifting in an ocean. And everybody feels that. Everybody feels that nobody is in control of our economy. Nobody is really focusing on our public services, that things are getting worse. This is the first parliament where people are worse off at the end compared to what they were at the beginning. This is official statistics are showing this. And this is no legacy for a government to be proud of. And it isn't just COVID, because other countries have recovered better and in different areas to what the government did. As just one example, the government had a catch-up plan for children. They commissioned this from a czar, a leader to an expert in education. How should we invest in the children to recover from COVID? This leader, school education leader, produced a plan and said this is how much it's going to cost. This is what we need to do for children to recover. The government decided to not go with his recommendations. He resigned from that position and he's been working with the Labour Party. That's just one example of how experts have given up on this government. And I think what will happen is that people will start to feel confident that there's going to be a government in control of the country again, that Britain will start to rebuild its reputation on the world stage, that we will have a plan for growth that will start to direct investment back into the country, that businesses will feel that they will have the political and policy stability to start to invest in their workforce and in their future. That will start to be a turnaround for our economy, stability, and our public services that the country desperately needs.
That's lovely. Thank you. So it's been 14 years, right? Am I right? Or
You are right. An
Yeah.
extraordinary long time.
Extraordinary long time. The thing is, like, where you left and to what you're going to get back, that'll be a huge difference, right? What are your plans? Like, how you're going to get back to where you were, or to a better England or United Kingdom?
We left the country with an economy that was growing. When you look at the economic statistics and data from 2010, you see that we were coming out of a recession that was just resulting from the 2008 global financial crisis. And many experts have told me, even journalists have said, that it is an unwritten story about how Gordon Brown helped to save the economy at that time, how he brought the G20 together, how he knew the economy so well internationally as well, to get the right interventions in the right places, so that that was not nearly as deep or as long lasting as it could have been in terms of a downturn. But what the government did when they came in, ideologically driven, that were pet projects, for example, ending the regional development agencies that were shown to be producing a return on investment for the country, for different parts of our country, particularly the regions of England, when they took away work experience from our schools for children in 2012, when they stopped there was a cap on the number of GPs, the number of patients a GP or general practitioner, your doctor in the community, could have, resulting in the longer waiting times now after many years. When you see how the data is showing that the waiting lists for the NHS, they were at around 2.5 million when we left office, and they had been coming down consistently from when we took office. They have been consistently going up. And the wait lists on the NHS were 5 million before COVID. And now they're at 7.5 million.
Oh my God.
And now people who are just like, I met somebody today, is waiting 5 months for a hernia operation. Children waiting 2 years for mental health assessment when their anxiety and mental health issues or learning difficulties are affecting their education. It's a generation that is actually being impacted by the impact of the Conservatives on all of our services and our economy. So we will be in no doubt that we will be inheriting a very, very tough situation. It's why we have to be very disciplined about the public finances. It's why we won't be able to spend all that we would want to see straight away, the country is wanting straight away. But it is why we are focused on how we need to grow our economy, get the investment in, keep that financial and fiscal stability, because it's only then, when we have the country's finances stable, that we can invest in our public services. This is why we are starting out with what we're calling our first steps, which we can talk more about. Our first steps to be making sure we've got 13,000 more police on our streets. Our first steps to see 40,000 new appointments a week for our NHS, evening and weekends, so that we're cutting the wait lists step by step. Our first steps to see 6,500 new teachers going into our schools, free breakfast clubs for primary schools, making sure there are mental health support clubs in our hubs in our schools, because many children in our communities, including many Indian children, those who have been affected by COVID as well. But not just that, the anxiety from social media, from lack of friendship, lack of support they feel. I'm working with many Indian families where their daughters and sons are struggling to attend school because of anxiety that is not being supported by our mental health services. So we want to make sure those mental health support services are in the school, taking the pressure off teachers and helping with early diagnosis of conditions and supporting children to then do well. So making sure also that we start to bring down our energy bills, because it has been a neglect of our government on our energy infrastructure in our country, cutting corners that led to the spikes in energy prices far higher than other countries because we didn't have the resilience and the energy sources at home. Labour wants to see us invest in a new company, GB Energy, owned by the taxpayer, that will see the billions invested by the government alongside the even more billions invested by the private sector, homegrown green energy, solar, wind, and wave, and other sources, new nuclear, that will see us having stable green energy in our country, bringing down energy bills in a sustained way for generations to come. And the return on that investment going to the taxpayer, the long-term decisions like you see Singapore making. This is what we want to start with now in Britain. An end to the chaos, an end to the decline, and an investment now for generations to come. These are the things that the Labour Party is focused on. And the final first step being an investment in our borders, because we have seen a terrible crisis with the boats coming in, the crisis in our immigration system. But the biggest thing has been that the government has lost control of the Home Office, no caseworkers, not the level that we need. We see this impacting the regular immigration, the legal immigration, people waiting for years for their paperwork to be processed. We've seen them waiting for years for their biometrics when the decisions also are made. So how can people be functioning legally as well in their lives to support their families if you have a Home Office in disarray? That's why we will be having 1,000 new caseworkers. That's why we will be having more border staff. That's why we will be having and border staff. That's why we will be having the support in our local government as well to help with what our local governments also needs for delivering services on the ground in our communities. These are the things that will make the difference on the ground. Secure our borders as well, using new counter-terrorism powers to smash the criminal gangs. Because the issue has been in our country around immigration, that we haven't had a balanced debate around the legal immigration because we haven't had a government dealing with the illegal immigration. These things we must turn around.
Everyone wants to ask this question. Why should I vote for Labour and not Conservative or Lib Dem? So what will be your answer, please?
I hope that people are now seeing that it is time for a change. That the Conservatives have squandered much of the country's inheritance in a way, and that what they have become characterised as is not a functioning government anymore. They have become characterised as a party that is putting its own interests before the country. There was a voter I talked to today. He came up to me in the street and he said, "I want to say sorry to you." And I said, "Why do you want to say sorry to me?" He said, "I gave you a hard time. In the last election, I told you I was voting Conservative, and I regret it. And I am so sorry because of the damage they've done. And I am telling everybody that they should not be voting Conservative, and that it is going to take at least 2 terms of Labour to start to turn this country around." He said the damage they have done. He said the question that people should be asking is, are you better off now or before the Tories won the last election? Are you better off? Are you better off now before compared to before the Tories took over in 2010? Is your community better off now, or was it better off before the Tories came in? Are your public services better off now or before the Tories came in? And he said they have hit everything. Nothing works as it did before. And he said to me, "I am sorry." He said to me 5 times, "I am sorry, and I wanted to apologise to you." And I said, "You have nothing to apologise for. It's they that have let the country down. It's they that have let all of us down. It is they that have put their party and themselves before the country. It's they that could have made different choices. And now it is time for a change." Now, I think what we also want to see is that we have a strong government, a government that has got that direction, that is a broad church, a government that is focused on together how we grow the economy, but also how we reform our public services. Because we also have to make some changes in line with how everything else has changed. If I go in as Minister for Skills, I will want to see that our apprenticeship system is working in line with how the economy is changing, business needs are changing. How do we introduce more flexibility? How do we make sure we've got smaller, more modular courses so adults can be learning, upskilling, maybe alongside work? How do we build a culture of lifelong learning? Because this is the one guarantee we have of the future. People are going to be changing their jobs. They have to learn new skills. They have to learn the new technologies. And if they are to learn that and we have a skilled nation, we have to change our skills system to deliver that. We need to bring a national skills strategy that this country does not have. We are behind almost every other European nation in not having a national skills strategy. I don't want to see India be ahead of us. India is already talking about human capital. I had a conversation with the Vice President of India 1 year ago. He said the next big challenge for India is human capital.
Yeah.
I believe that's the next big challenge for here in Britain, a human capital, in investment in our human talent, because that's how we'll grow the economy and we'll see prosperity in all of our communities. Now, these things don't happen by themselves. They happen because of a government that has a plan for a nation, and they happen because a government is working in partnership with the nation, in partnership with our industry, in partnership with our communities, in partnership with our local authority leaders, in partnership with our mayors, in partnership with the Welsh Senedd, in partnership with the Scottish Parliament, in partnership with the government in Northern Ireland. This is how you have a Westminster that's delivering for our country. I cannot see any other political party that has a plan for our economy, our services, our environment, our communities, other than the Labour Party. And that's why I believe everyone should be looking to Labour for this election.
Seema ji, everyone is asking that I think at the moment Tory party is creating a scarecrow, which what they are saying is that if Labour comes to the government, they will tax each and every household by £2,000. They will be paying additional tax. So, which we believe that is not true, but we want to know what is your say on this?
I'm amazed that the Conservative Party are still using a figure that's been discredited, and so much so that it was headline news that the former Permanent Secretary of the Treasury, the head of UK statistics, the head of one of our most respected think tanks on the economy, had all said that the Conservatives were using figures incorrectly, and that the calculations they had done of this were by Conservative special advisors, not the civil service. And it is extraordinary that you have the civil service at senior levels having to come out to challenge the Prime Minister on the use of figures. Now, some analysis has been suggesting that that figure is saying it's £400 a year for 5 years, and that's how they've made the 2,000. But the thing that is actually a problem for the Conservatives is firstly that we have done our costings. Everything in the first steps that we have outlined, the commitments to our NHS, 40,000 appointments, the 6,500 new teachers, the new childcare places that we announced yesterday or this week across the country, 3,000 more school-based nurseries. Look, all of this has been fully costed and fully funded by other routes. For example, the ending of non-dom tax status and a couple of the other taxes, ending private equity loopholes. So these are choices that we're making. And as a result of the analysis as to how much we will need for these commitments, we have no need to be raising these taxes. We have said we will not be raising income tax, we will not be raising national insurance, and we will not be raising VAT, except for VAT on private school fees, because we have to make a choice to invest in our state education system. The reason being that that has been starved of so much, and this is really just acknowledging that, you know, private schools should be a choice for people if they want that, but they are really, in a sense, businesses, and that for those private schools, I believe anyway, that costs will come down as energy prices come down, as inflation comes down, as food prices come down, and these things. So it is, you know, it is a question about how this will, you know, be able to be implemented and absorbed, because it isn't about saying a negative about private schools. It is about saying we've got to make some difficult choices in order to get the investment we need, because we know that debt is at its possibly its highest level. You know, it has rocketed. The public sector debt has rocketed under the Conservatives, and that we cannot borrow to invest other than within very tight fiscal rules. So this is the framework in which we have to move into government, and the tight rules for the economy around which we then start to rebuild the nation's finances. So the Conservatives have also got a very serious problem in that what the Labour Party has costed in their announcements from themselves is that there is a £71 billion black hole in their budgets. And you see, as an example of what the Tories have done, they talked about funding national service for children to young people to be in our armed forces, which have now been shrunk to their lowest size since the Napoleon years. They want children to do national citizen service in the armed forces, when actually the armed forces don't have the people that in there to do the management of them, so they've raised their concerns. And secondly, they're taking the 2.5 billion for that away from the funds to regenerate our towns that was going into the towns across the country to help with prosperity and funding for support for young people in those communities. So they take with one hand, give with another. In fact, they take what we've calculated, they take £10 with one hand and they give you £2 back. This has been the problem. And so their £71 billion unfunded commitments is at the core of the argument now about their manifesto and their pledges, and how much the country can no longer trust the Conservatives with the economy and with figures on public finances. They're utterly discredited now.
Finally, Seemaji, one last question. Where do you see our country after 5 years of Labour government ruling?
The first 5 years, yeah.
First 5 years.
Yeah.
I believe that people will see a big change, that they will feel more hope, that they will feel more optimism. I think that they will have seen some turning of the corner. I think we will also be realistic over the next 5 years, just as one of my residents said today, that they know it's going to take more than one term because the damage is so deep. And you know, even if you were to buy a house and have to do it up, even that can take 1 year. You know, things don't always change overnight. We want to be building 300,000 homes a year. We want to be seeing the investment start to go in the wind energy, wave energy. That can take, 18 months to get planning permission, sometimes even longer, let alone then the investment and the starting to build. But I think you can start to see change happen, and you can see a direction of travel. I think people will feel that the country will be on its way to a confident future, and one in which Britain is not just once again starting to be prosperous, punching above its weight and starting to be a leader in the world again.
Thank you very much. And I think it's July the 4th.
Yes.
It is July the 4th.
We all should go and vote and
Vote for Labour.
Vote for change.
Yes, and vote for change.
All the best, Seemaji, and thanks
Thank
for
you
your
so
time.
much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Vanakkam.
Right.
Say vanakkam to our viewers.
Is it Vanakkam?
Vanakkam, yeah.
Vanakkam.
Thank you.